Hello everyone, and welcome to the NEATEC Electronics series. This video is about Karnaugh maps, so let's get started. Alright everyone, for this video relating to Karnaugh maps, we are going to group the zeros. Now, if you recall what we did before, we always grouped the ones. And when you're grouping the ones, right, if you group ones, that's using the SOP method, right? Sum of products, right? We talked about that. Now, if you group the zeros, you're going to use the POS method, product of sums, right? So in this case, we have a set of zeros right here. We can group, right? And we have one over here. You can't group it with anything, can you? So it's alone. It's alone, right? So what are the equations for this? So product of sums. So each variable is going to be summed, and it's going to be the complement, right? So let's do something you know already. You've seen this one, right? If we look to the left, right over here, we're looking at these two rows. You can see that A changes, doesn't it? It goes from 0 to 1. It's a 0 right here, and it's a 1 right here. So we're going to discard A, okay? But B stays the same, right? No, B is equal to 1. It stays 1, right? That means you're going to have, what's the complement of B? It's B bar, right? Now, on this side, if you look at the group, what column does it take? Well, C equals 1, right? And it doesn't change, because this group is always in that column where C equals 1, right? So POS, remember you have the OR gate, right? So you put the plus sign in there. Since C is equal to 1, you need to take the complement. So it's C bar. Don't forget to take the complement, okay? That's a pitfall. Many people fall into that. Now, let's look at this one. You have one that doesn't have a grouping here, do you? Well, it's the same method, right? If you look to the left, it's all in this one single row, isn't it? It doesn't change. So it's A bar, but the complement of A is 0, right? So that's A bar. And then if you're going to take the complement of it, it's just A, right? So it's A, or, well, B is there, right? Actually, it's B bar, but you take the complement of it because B is 0, so it's B. And then you're going to OR it. This is only located in this one column, isn't it? That's when C is equal to 0. So you're going to complement it with C, the complement of C bar. Get it? So the actual expression for this is going to be Y equals, and don't forget your parentheses, B bar or C bar, and then you're going to take the product, because it's the product of sums. That's a sum right there. You're going to take the product with another sum, and that's going to be A plus B or C. I said plus, I didn't mean to do that. So there's your expression. Got it? all the rules that we previously went over are the same, right? So they don't change. It's just now the rules of grouping, I should say. But now, instead of grouping the ones, you're grouping the zeros. Let's try something real quick just for the heck of it, right? I'm gonna have this in green. Let's group the ones just for once. So I would say we can group here, right? There. And then that one up there you can group with this one down here, can't you? Got it? So let's do each one of these groups. So this one right here, if you look at, let me change these now for you, okay? This group takes this row and this row, right? Because it includes this one up here and this one down here, okay? So what's that going to be? Remember, now we're grouping ones, right? So we're using SOP. SOP, well, look on the left, what changes? Well, A is 0 here, and it's a 1 here. It changes, we don't want 1, so A, so we discard it. But B is 0, isn't it? So, and that stays the same. So it's going to be B bar, right? And then we come down from the top here. You can see it's all in this one column. That's when C equals 1. So it's going to have a C, right? That's one term. Let's look at this one over here. Now this one you have a 1 over here, and you're grouping it with this one over here on the right. So you can see this is the row you're going to use. The group is completely in that one row. So that's going to be A, B bar, right? Because B is equal to a 0 here, right? Now, if you look at the top, it spans both columns when C is 0 and C is 1. Since C changes, you can discard C, right? Alright, how about this one? We'll come over here for this one. This group over here, well, that encompasses this row and this row, doesn't it? Because it includes that one and that one. Well, in that case, B is going, A changes, so we discard A. B is equal to 1, so that's going to be a B. And if you look at the top, the column, that's when C is equal to 0. So it's C bar. Did we get them all? Let's see, have we missed? I think we're missing one. 1, 2, 3. No, we got them all. So in that case, and I'll write it over here for your SOP, that would be equal to B bar C ORed with A, B bar ORed with B, C bar. Get it? So if you're given a truth table, you then convert that truth table into a Karnaugh map, okay? You can either group it using the SOP method or the product of sums method, the POS method. So this method is using the SOP, this is the POS method, okay? So if you have, it all depends what gate you have on hand, right? Obviously this one would require 3 AND gates right here, right? Because you got one here, you got one here, and one here. This one would require 1 AND gate because You would only have to AND these two inputs, right? But here you would need an OR gate here and a 3-input OR gate here. Here you need 2 OR gates. Alright? So you have different methods of doing the same thing. This specific video is really about grouping them using the POS method. Alright, let's try another one. Alright everybody, I have just given you a Karnaugh map, okay? And obviously it is right here under the brace. What I want you to do is pause the video, and I want you to group this using both the POS and the SOP methods, okay? And then turn the video back on and we'll do it together. Alright everyone, here we go. I'll just get rid of that brace just to clean things up. So let's try this method. Let's do the SOP right here. I'm going to do that in blue, okay? Now SOP, we group the ones, obviously. We just group the ones, right? So if you look to the left, it encompasses all 4 of these rows, correct? Well, in every one of these rows, you can see that A changes from a 0 to a 1, and B changes from a 0 to a 1 and back to a 0. So we discard A and B. However, if we look at the columns, this group resides only in one column, right? So really, that's going to be C, isn't it? So the expression for this, for SOP, is Y equals C. Get it? Now, next we're going to use the POS method. If you remember, in the POS method, we group the zeros, don't we? Alright? So let me just get rid of just these on the side here, and this one here. Now, I'll leave the blue grouping. We're worried about the green. So if we're going to group the zeros, notice we'll do this, won't we? There we go. So for that one, what's that grouping equal to? Well, using the same method, it encompasses all 4 of these rows, doesn't it? That group of 0 goes from this top row down to the bottom row. And in each one of those rows, A changes, just like it did for the blue one, 0 to 1, and B changes from 0 to 1 and then back to 0. So we discard A and B. But C, well, C does not change, right? It's a 0. So remember, we have to take the complement, right? So remember, if I take C bar, that's what the value is, and I take the complement of it, it's just C, right? So using the POS method, Y equals C. You see they both agree? They should both agree, right? I mean, that's a very basic problem there, but you can see visually how they would work, right? All right, everyone, I'll be right back with another example. All right, everyone, here's another example for you. What I suggest you do is you pause the video, and we're going to have both what? SOP, we'll do that right here, and that will be your expression here. We'll do the POS method down here. Alright, so pause the video, and when you're done, come back and we'll do it together. Alright, everyone, Welcome back. So let's do some grouping here. I'm doing the SOP method. I'm grouping the ones. So I see this. My eye is drawn to this first. Big group of ones in the middle, right? Now we have this one left alone over there, don't we? Now, if you look at this one here, if you want to look down here at this corner, well, there's no grouping there, right? So that if you remember, the top edge is the same as the bottom edge, and you can't loop it around, so there's no grouping there. If you look to the right, that means if you look to this side over here, you would roll it around to this side, so there's no grouping over here on this one, obviously, right? That's a 0. So basically, I would think the best group here would simply be this. Get it? If you just put a circle around the 1 and nothing else, around the 1, that doesn't make sense, around the 1 up here in this corner right here, right? If you just circled the 1 without circling this additional 1 right here, it would work. You would get an expression, but it wouldn't be the most simplified expression. You always want to make your groups as big as they can be, okay? Encompass as many ones as possible to make the resultant expression simplified, okay? Alright, so let's do the groups, right? For this one right here, let's do this one. Let's say this one right here is already pointing to it. So for that group of ones, if we come to the left, that group encompasses these 2 rows, right? And as you can see, A is 0 and it stays the same. B changes from 0 to 1, so discard B. So we're going to say that is going to be equal to A bar. And if you look at the columns, well, this group resides only in that one column, and that's when C is equal to 1 and it doesn't change. So it's going to be A bar C, right? Now let's do this one. What's this one going to be? Well, for that one, you can see that group encompasses 2 rows only, right? And that's when A changes, but B stays constant. B is equal to 1. So it's B, right? And if you look on the top, you can see that that group encompasses 2 columns, and C changes, right? So you discard C. So really that's your resultant right there. So if we're going to write it, that's going to be Y is going to be equal to A bar C or B. Got it? Now, tell you what, let's do the POS method, alright? We're going to have some fun here. Okay, so let's start grouping the zeros, shall we? Well, obviously we have one group right here, don't we? At the bottom. Now we have this 1 up here, right? So if I do this, you can see I can group it with this one as well. That makes it 2 groups of 2, right? Well, let's see what each one turns out to be, shall we? So this 1 at the bottom here just encompasses the 2. You can see that grouping resides in 1 row where A is equal to 1 and B is equal to 0, right? So if remember, we have to take the complements, right? So it's going to be A bar or B, right? And then this one down here, that, remember, encompasses this 1 I'm sorry, that 0 and this 0. So it's these two rows, right? So for those two rows, you can see that A changes from a 0 to a 1, but B stays the same, right? So that's going to be B, because it's actually it's B bar, but since we take the complement, we use B, right? And C stays constant right here, right, in your column, because that group resides in that one column. So in that case, it would be C bar. Since we take the complement, it would be C. So it would be or C. Got it? Now, let's put them together. Y will equal A bar or B. Got it? Don't forget your parentheses now. B or C. Okay? So both of those expressions would work. And if you want to go through the Boolean proofs, you can prove to yourself that these two are equal. But with the Karnaugh map method, you followed all the rules, they would give you the same results. They're equal. Alright, I think that just about does it for the Karnaugh maps. We've gone over the SOP method, the POS method, the different methods of grouping. I think you're ready for prime time. Alright everyone, see you soon.